5 words. Short papers by C.H. Mackintosh. 1 Corinthians 14 verse 19. It is often wonderful to mark the way in which the words of Scripture seize upon the heart. They are as goads and as nails fastened by the masters of assemblies. At times some brief sentence or clause of a sentence will lay hold upon the heart, penetrate the conscience or occupy the mind in such a way as to prove beyond all question the divinity of the book in which it is found. What force of reasoning, what fullness of meaning, what power of application, what an unfolding of the springs of nature, what an unveiling of the heart, what point and pungency, what condensing energy we meet with throughout the sacred pages. One delights to dwell upon these things at all times, but more especially at a moment like the present when the enemy of God and man is seeking in such varied ways to cast a slur upon the inspired volume. The foregoing train of thought has been suggested to the mind by the expression which forms the title of this article. I had rather, says the self-emptied and devoted apostle, speak 5 words with my understanding, that I might teach others also, than 10,000 words in an unknown tongue. How important for all speakers to remember this. We know that tongues had their value. They were for a sign to the unbelieving. But in the assembly they were useless unless there was an interpreter. The grand end of speaking in the assembly is edification, and this end can only be reached by persons understanding what is said. It is impossible for a man to edify me if I cannot understand what he says. He must speak in an intelligible language and in an audible voice, else I cannot receive any edification. This surely is plain and worthy of the serious attention of all who speak in public. Further, we would do well to bear in mind that our only warrant for standing up to speak in the assembly is that the Lord Himself has given us something to say. If it be but 5 words, let us say the 5 and sit down. Nothing can be more unintelligent than for a man to attempt to speak 10,000 words, when God has only given him 5. It is regretful that something like this should so often occur. What a mercy it would be if we could only keep within our measure. That measure may be small. It matters not, let us be simple, earnest and real. An earnest heart is better than a clever head. A fervent spirit is better than an eloquent tongue. Where there is a genuine, hearty desire to promote the real good of souls, it will prove more effective with me and more acceptable to God than the most brilliant gifts without it. We should covet earnestly the best gifts, but we should also remember a more excellent way, even the way of love that ever hides itself and seeks only the profit of others. It is not that we value gifts less, but we value love more. Finally, it would greatly tend to raise the tone of public teaching and preaching to remember the following very simple rule: do not set about looking for something to say because you have got to speak, but speak because you have got something that ought to be said. This is very simple. It is a poor thing for a man to be merely collecting as much matter as will fill up a certain space of time. This should never be. Let the teacher or preacher attend diligently upon his ministry. Let him cultivate his gift, let him wait on God for guidance, power and blessing, let him live in the spirit of prayer and breathe the atmosphere of Scripture, then will he be always ready for the Master's use. Then his words, whether 5 or 10,000, will assuredly glorify Christ and do good to men. But in no case should a man rise to address his fellows without the conviction that God has given him something to say and the desire to say it to edification.